This is my non-conformist clock. It's called that because there's a few things that are very different, don't conform to normal clock making procedure. It has all three hands on one shaft, concentric, which I've always wanted to do, and here it is. I've done that by putting the hour hand on this black circular disc which serves as the clock face, but in fact it turns around with the hour hand on it. It turns 1 hour every hour. Doesn't run continuously, it just moves 1 hour at a time. The clock's run by a synchronous motor. The most important thing here that makes it non-conformist is that the hour rack and the snail are linear vertical pieces that go up and down, whereas in a normal clock the rack is curved and the snail is circular. The snail rack is moved down 1 tooth every hour. That allows the striking rack to fall 1 tooth further down when it drops, which means that when it is pulled back up, it will strike one more time. The snail rack is pushed down 1 tooth at a time by this threaded pin on the 1-inch bush wheel, and when it's in position it's held by the locking piece, which is very hard to see. This side is similar. The striking rack is lifted up by the threaded pin on the bush wheel and locked by this threaded pin. There's a switch that ensures that the motor for the striking rack stops in the right place, because if it were to stop with the threaded pin in the rack wouldn't be able to drop and the clock wouldn't work. The hour strike is very simple. A threaded pin on a bush wheel goes round, pushes the strip down, it's quite springy, and there's a hammer attached to it. When it's released, it hits the striking gong, which is a ball race. I found that the ball race is pretty much the best part to use as a gong. It's the most resonant of all the parts that I can find. Has a nice ting to it. On the other side, the quarter hour, half hour and 3/4 hour strikes are achieved in a similar way. This time the gong is a flanged sector plate, because I only have one of the other part. Not quite so good, but not bad. If I can hit it properly. The most important part of the clock, really, it's really difficult to show. It's buried in there, but it's this cam made of plastic. It rotates and lifts the arm there with the threaded pin on the end. At the warning point, the hour rack is dropped down, ready to be raised 1 tooth at a time for the striking. That's quite complicated, it's really hard to show. I think that's about it. And now we'll run the clock by hand so I can do it fast to try and show how it works. But it's very difficult to get the camera in to show the parts, so you'll have to forgive me if it's not as clear as some of my other videos have been. This is how the clock works. For the demonstration, I've disconnected one of the gears from the motor and I can turn the clock much faster with this crank. So the first thing that will happen is first quarter hour strike, and that is simply the threaded pin on the bush wheel goes down and pushes against the strip, which is quite springy, and when it releases we hit the gong, which is a flanged sector plate. The next thing that happens is the half hour strike, which is the same, and the 3/4 hour or quarter till strike is the same. And then at this point, this is where it all starts to happen. There's a cam on the minute shaft. This cam lifts an arm connected to this arm with the shock absorber, which flips from one position to the next. And at the warning point, which is about 10 minutes before the clock strike, this arm will flip over and do two things. It will drop the hour rat down to the bottom, and it will close the power switch for the motor. There it is. The motor can't run yet because there's another switch which is open and won't close until the lifting arm drops, which is about to happen at the hour. And then the motor starts and raises the cam one tooth at a time, raises the rack one tooth at a time. There we go. Other things that happen are during the period of quarter past, half past and quarter till, this bush wheel with the threaded pin on it will push the snail rack down one tooth so that we get one more strike for each hour. It's rather hard to see, I'm afraid. There we are, pushing down on the tooth, and the little locking piece above it will hold the snail in position, ready for the next time the snail drops down, which it just did. And the same thing will happen for the next hour. When the lifting piece drops, off we go. The clock's driven by a synchronous motor here, and this simple setup ensures that the synchronous motor runs in the right direction. If it starts in the wrong direction, the strip just stops it from going around and it will go the other way. Other points of interest are these two large gears are just bringing the drive for the minutes back up to the second-hand shaft. The top one of the gears is actually a geared ring sandwiched between two 4-inch circular plates so that it meshes accurately. Because the minute hand is loose on the shaft, it has to be to go through to the front of the clock. And then the hour hand is mounted on the black 6-inch circular disc which forms the face of the clock. But this allows me to have all three hands on one clock face. That's about it. It's very difficult to film this because I can't get the camera in to show the parts of the clock. Thanks for watching.